Time for the Tesla and Palantir weekly update here, and gonna start with Tesla here on linear scale. Gonna show you the fibs that I'm really paying attention to, and from the all-time high down to the low in January of 2023, it finally broke through this 618,295 and shot up directly to the 702. This is the halfway Fibonacci between 786 and the 618. And that is 321.32. And where did price close? Well, it closed at 321.22. So just a little bit below. So guess what? This is now considered your resistance level. So let's see if it has enough energy to get to the 786 above at 347.58. And looking in the past, it could be some bigger resistance since it's getting closer and closer to all-time highs. So the 786 on linear scale usually is, for when it hits the first time, it's usually sometimes a rejection. So I would expect that, but there's nothing to fear. And when I go to the log scale charts, it actually did close above the 786 Fibonacci, the 306.93. So this is actually what I'm going to be looking at for support levels now. I'm going to be looking at the 306.93 down to the 295.05. So that is looking at my new support zone for Tesla. So I think if price did get down in that zone from 306 down to 295, I think that could be a good zone. Maybe even wick below down to 290s would be possible as well. So that is the new support zone while we just focus on the resistance. And the resistance above is anywhere from current price up to the 347 all the way up to the 353. So that is your resistance zone. And ultimately, if it could stay above this 306 week after week after week, then that's above the 786 on log scale. And if it's above the 786, then that's a very bullish thing for the future. So I am looking for some amazing things in the future, but whether or not it needs to come back down to these lower levels and back test first before it goes higher, that's still yet to be determined. So just right now, enjoy the ride because what I can see now, it's a very bullish chart. And what I mean by that is this weekly candle is the first higher high from the top, right? We can see it's a lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower, lower, lower. First higher high on the high time frame. What does that mean? Well, that means right here, we'll go to my linear scale again, show you right here, it's a change of character, right? This is a change of character for a downtrend chart to an uptrend chart. So this is the first higher high from the high time frame, which is a very bullish thing. Very, very, very bullish for the future. So does that mean it's going to come back down to the 260s, 270s to backtest that? I mean, anything's possible with Tesla, but I don't really think it's necessary. And because the reason because of the confluence I just showed you with the Fibonacci's, but also because it's really breaking out. And what I want to point out is it's above the arc. It got above the arc. And what sits above here? Well, it's around that 350 zone, the 358 up there, a little bit higher. And also, one last thing here on this chart alone, let me just take off the fibs for you. It got above my blue level, right? The blue level of my GAN. Let me just take off the Ichimoku so you can see it more clearly. It got above that level. And I've been showing you this chart for a while, how it was riding the arc down as support, went down to retest the bottom arc in January, came back up to the blue level, riding that down, and then it broke out, back tested on August 5th, and just broke out. So what else sits around that 290 support zone that I showed you with the fibs? That's right. It's the blue level. So I'm pretty confident that this blue level is now going to be a support. So any chance that price comes down to that 306, maybe down to the low 290s, I think that could be the opportunity to look for more accumulation to go higher and higher. And ultimately, this chart goes really high, right? It goes super high, and the next resistance on this chart ultimately sits at the 1900s, right? Maybe 1800s, depending on time. But the next level, since this level is looking like it's going to flip to support, how do I know that? Well, it's a bullish engulfing candle above to maybe confirm that this now wants to be a support. So that green level all the way sits at 4,900. So it's pretty high up. I'm not saying it's going to go there next year or the year after, but it has potential over the next like 5 years to get there or beyond. So this is just an incredibly bullish chart now, a super big bullish engulfing candle above multiple levels. And ultimately, I think it's only good things to come. So let me just put those fibs back on so you can see. So we can track the resistance levels after it gets to all-time highs. So after it gets to all-time highs, what comes next? It's like 600, then 740, then 980, right? Then 24, and then maybe 4,000, right? Maybe around that 4,000. So the sky is really the limit now. And as long as this blue level holds, which is 290 for the future, then this is going to be the new support zone. And guess what? The sky is now the limit. And next is Palantir, and Palantir, wow, 58.39 is after hours, and that's what it closed at exactly today. So perfect, beautiful chart, all-time high, weekly candle close, amazing. From the high to the low, it broke out, right? So now where is support? Well, ultimately, I guess you can consider this $45, the previous all-time high, your high time frame support. So it is possible to get back down there, but I would not expect it. So what comes next? Well, maybe not this chart right here. Let's go to the linear scale chart. And it got above the 1.272 on linear scale here. And we can see that the 55.62 actually could be the new support zone now. So this is why we switched to linear scale and just look at these fibs, because maybe it doesn't need to come back down to this 45. Maybe all it needs is a back test possibly of this 55.62 and just build a base on top of that. And now we know what our resistance levels above are. They're going to be 61 and 69.13. So this zone especially is going to be the next resistance. And I think anything above 69 might be a challenge to break above immediately. So if it does get to 69 in the future, it might need to come back down to retest the 61 before it really goes higher. So this chart is extremely bullish, and then the 2.272 is up there at 94, and so on. But I'm going to just show you my GAN, my logs, my log-based GAN first, and we can see that what does price look like? Well, it was perfect the whole time. It broke out, it almost back tested the angle there, and then that was the launch mode, right? I told you guys all of these weeks that as long as price stays above the arc and the angle, then it's just going to go higher. And sure enough, it wants to go higher. So it does look like this angle is going to be holding throughout the whole year. So that means a $100 Palantir probably by at least September, maybe even sooner, September of 2025. And what does that mean? Well, the next resistance levels, according to GAN, are going to be in the 80s, right? From the 80s, depending on time, down to the 76s. So then after that, it's 100. So the trajectory is really, really powerful. And I think what we're really going to focus on first, because we know this is a very symmetrical chart, and we know that it's most likely going to hold this angle for a while. So what to focus on really is just the Fibonacci levels right here. Just make sure 55.62 holds that support, and if it continues to hold, then guess what? It's going to go much, much higher.